is Joy News Prime.
Hello there, this is the AU edition of Joy News Prime with me, Gifty Andrew Apia. In the headlines tonight, regional chairman of opposition New Patriotic Party holds meetings to begin processes of impeaching chairman and general secretary of the party. Today is Africa Union Day, but how relevant has the continental body been? We'll find out some more. Up north, we find out how people of Daboya struggle to make ends meet in the absence of a bridge over the Daboya River. Ebola vaccine test to begin in the Volta region as a step towards containment of the disease here in Ghana. Across Ghana's borders, the exhumation of what are believed to be the remains of Burkina Faso's former president, Thomas Sankara, begins. Details in a moment. Let's get started. Zimbabwean ambassador to Ghana, who is also the Dean of Diplomatic Corps, has encouraged the youth to empower themselves and not depend on other government for employment. Madam Pavelin Tendai Musaka opposed the youth migrating in search of greener pastures through dangerous means. Thousands of African migrants have died on the Mediterranean Sea as they migrate in search of greener pastures. She was speaking on Joy News, The Pulse.
Normally, we don't want to always go back to colonialism, but it's actually a mindset of ourselves. We have not yet liberated ourselves and started believing in ourselves. We always believe somebody else should give me the job. Those youths, my message to them and all women is that please, you have the solution. You have the capacity to create that employment. If only you would use your brains and sit down, they should now sit down and on the ground, at the ground level, grassroots level, and say, how do we empower ourselves, create employment on our own rather than always expecting government. No matter if you wait for government to create the employment, it will take us another 2,000 years for government to give everybody a job. So you start creating your own employment. You have a talent. Ask yourself, what is it that I enjoy doing? You'll be surprised. You have so much wealth in your brain.
Well, earlier today, Ghana joined the host of nations on the continent to mark Africa Day with a flag-raising ceremony here in Accra. Ghana's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Hannah Tete, spoke about the challenges that may arise as Africa focuses on the AU 2063 agenda.
If we are going to be able to make progress on this agenda, it cannot just be a matter for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. It cannot just be a ceremony that we hold on an annual basis in order to be able to remind ourselves of what our forefathers have done. It requires the involvement of civil society, of our religious and cultural leaders, of the private sector as well as the public sector to work towards creating the Africa that we want. 2063 is a long way away. And if we keep focusing on a goal that is at least 48 years away, we may miss the opportunity for the quick wins that can happen in our time, in the here and now. And it's the reason why we would want to encourage, especially ourselves as Ghanaians, at this ceremony, at this important commemoration, to remember that we have led the way in so many things, and it is possible for us to lead the way in this agenda as well. Working through our regional organization, the Economic Community of West African States, and working with regional organizations across our continent to create a more integrated union.
Well, that's Madam Hannah Tete there. She also touched on the declaration of a year to focus on the need of women by the African Union.
When it comes to supporting women in our different countries, even though we talk about and have talked about for a number of years the elimination of cultural practices that are harmful to women, we have talked about eliminating all forms of discrimination against women, we still find ourselves in a position where those aspirations are yet to be met. And therefore, it is not enough for us just to declare a year that focuses on the needs of women. But it is important for us to drill down that theme and to make sure that we begin to work together at a continental level, at a regional level, and within our country, among the different ministries, departments, and agencies to make this aspiration a reality.
Still on the AU Day, the United Secretary General is urging Africans to see each day as an opportunity to celebrate Africa's achievement and to reflect on its challenges. Ban Ki-moon, in his message to the AU, recounted how Ebola dominated this year and swept West Africa, claiming at least 11,000 lives and threatening hard-won social, economic and political achievement, while lauding the great courage and determination and the general support of African nations to affected countries towards ending the outbreak. It is challenging Africa to spread benefit of its progress more broadly and deeply, particularly to the women and girls who represent Africa's future as part of the UN's Agenda 2063. The message further says Africa should intensify efforts to provide Africa's women with better access to education, work and healthcare, and by doing so, accelerate Africa's transformation. Now, Dean of School of Arts of the University of Ghana says Africa has achieved some feat despite the challenges that the continent is faced with. Professor Kojo Gavwa was, however, not happy that Africa looked to the West for every partnership venture it takes. Professor Gavwa was speaking to me earlier on The Pulse.
For now, we haven't clearly understood who we are, because we have glossed over where we've come from. Okay. What are we learning? We are learning things that we take for granted and don't even critically interrogate. So in the school system, for example, up to today, we still have children singing about in the bleak midwinter. Okay.
Well, when there's no winter in Africa.
Snow falling. I saw it on TV just about a couple of months back. Okay, and I was sad. In many of our schools, most of our examples come from outside the continent. So what are we telling ourselves? We are telling ourselves that we remain inferior to other peoples. You see, and that influences how we even lead. Our leaders go out there not thinking that we have the human resources, brilliant human resources that we can harness.
But I think that the African leader has his own way of thinking that is not, positively influenced by whoever, because elsewhere they don't. People are not changing terms to still stay in power. But we come to a situation in Africa where every leader, very few leaders, you might say, are still, they've stayed in power for so long, but they still bend the rules just to continue staying in power, and the lives of the people are not getting any better.
That is true, but the African leader does not emerge in isolation. The African leadership is a reflection of the current state of the African society, where we don't focus on substance. If people come and throw money at us, the material thing, you talked about money being powerful, then we think he or she has what it takes to lead. Okay, we don't sit down, critically think about who is this person, where is this coming from, which factors influence him. So many of our leaders go out there thinking that leadership is business. Once I get out there, I should be a front person for an international agency, which I admire so much, which we all admire. Anything that comes from the outside should be better than what we have.
Now, you are an expert. You are an expert in this. What will be your advice on this day that we celebrate the African Union to our leaders? We have so many issues we're dealing with. We have health issues, we have security threats. What is your advice if you should have the whole of the AU sitting in front of you as an expert? What would you tell them?
I would tell our leaders to first of all go back to the drawing board and re-educate themselves. What they know before leading us is not what the reality is. They don't clearly understand the continent or the people they are leading. They take it for granted that once they are in leadership position, they know it all, but they don't clearly understand where we're coming from and where we should be going.
Still on the AU, an expert in African studies, Professor Emeritus Jacob N. Gordon, says Africa's challenges are not peculiar, adding the never-ending challenges of Africa are a struggle for liberty. He was, however, of the view that corruption is inherent in humans and can never be done away with. He was speaking on strides made by Africa and the challenges it deals with.
Corruption is a part of human greed. You will never get rid of it completely. It also depends on how you define it. In America, somehow we managed to even legalize what might amount to be corruption. For example, we call them people who work with Congress to get favors, we call them lobbyists. And they register as lobbyists. Openness in governance, transparency, and that's lacking. Transparency is very critical for people to trust you where you put in their money. So people are going to be asking. When people get tired, they are going to be demonstrating. They are going to be demanding their freedom. We have seen that in the US, many other societies.
Let's still talk AU. Earlier today on the Oxford Street in Osuhia in Accra, some artists took their work to the street to mark AU Day. Joining us is Francisca Kakwa and joined them as they painted images of former South African President Nelson Mandela and Ghana's first President Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
We are along the streets of Oxford Street in Osu. There's a gentleman here. He's doing something very colorful that has caught our attention. His name is Mohammed Audu. We're just going to stop him, interrupt him a bit, and have a nice chat with him. Hi, Mohammed.
Hi.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, you can see I'm just putting up some colors here, a mural of Nelson Mandela.
Okay. This is a picture of Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
Is there a particular reason you are doing this today?
Yes, first, today is African Union Day, and why Nelson Mandela is an African, and he believes in the unity of Africa. He has the same mentality as Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah, they have the same struggles for their country and our continent.
So this is your way of marking African Union Day today?
Yeah, this is my way of marking the day.
So what happens? Do you just put up the painting? What happens? Do people, I see some people are gathered around. What happens?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people here today, I think. So
when they come, what do they ask you about?
Yeah, you can see the little kids out there. So most of us, because I'm from Nima. You know, Nima is Islam, and I take it as responsibility, a big responsibility on me, on my community. Secondly, when I'm doing stuff, I see myself as a property of Ghana to sell myself and sell my nation and Africa to the world. So that's my aim, and this my only way to put up anything in my mind to bring it out to the public. And a lot of people here ask Mandela, what has Mandela done? So when you think about xenophobia, that's when you think this man has done a great work for the unity of South Africa. So that's why we are honoring him today.
So does anybody pay you to do this, or this is your own initiative?
Yeah, it's my own initiative. I love what I do, and I think, and these people, when they are doing stuff, it's not like somebody is paying them. They are doing it.
They did it for their country. You're also doing it for your country.
Yeah, so this is my own. This is my struggle. This is what I have to do.
Okay. So I see Mandela here, and there's another gentleman who is painting something. Yeah. What is he doing? Yeah,
it's about to draw Kwame Nkrumah. It's my buddy and my big boss. He's called Nicholas Wayu.
Okay, so Nicholas is going to do Kwame Nkrumah. Let's just say hi to Nicholas. Hello, Nicholas.
Hi.
You are getting ready to draw Kwame Nkrumah, I'm told.
Kwame Nkrumah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So how long will that take you?
Probably 4 or 5 hours. Yeah.
Did it take Mohammed's time to do
I don't think so. It depends. I've been here around 10 this morning.
10 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your reason for putting up a portrait of Kwame Nkrumah?
Yeah, Kwame Nkrumah is for Africa. You know, Kwame Nkrumah is for Africa. Mandela is for South Africa. But they are all great leaders. And all we are doing is celebrate them. Yeah.
Do you not think that the AU has lost its relevance? Do people even care?
I do know. Because what happened in South Africa and nothing is done about it, it's quite distant. So we are just using our artworks to, celebrate. That's all.
So at the end of the day, when you're done with your artwork, when you finish interacting with the kids and also the people around here, what happens? How would you feel?
I'll be grateful. I'll feel good, because I have passion of doing this. That's all. Anything you do with passion, you have nothing to worry about. And if, especially when people are, interested, when people are interacting, when people are in love with what you are doing, I think that's the most important.
And is that what you get from the people who come to watch you?
Well, yeah, they are inspired. That's why they are all standing here. And it makes me feel good because I think they love what we are doing. They find the beauty of it. That's why they are standing, wondering how and then when we get it done. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Okay, so today's AU Day. Some people say that the day has lost its relevance. We've been celebrating it year after year, nothing happens. But these two gentlemen here believe that our leaders must be celebrated and that the African story must be told. For Joy News, my name is Francisca Kakra-Forsen.
Well, you might just agree with me if I say there's a bit of struggle over what really the relevance of AU is. Well, let's hear from the voices of the streets what they think the relevance of the AU is.
AU Days is important.
It's very, very important. So we Africa, you have to understand it and celebrate it every year.
I can't really tell, because we have different school of thought, because people doubt the relevance of AU. You consider what's happening in Libya and a lot of countries in Africa struggling to, come together. Francophone and Anglophone is a problem. So I can't be specific, but there's a big question here, whether it's relevant or not.
No. I'm sure today, lots of, especially with the public servants, nobody is going to work, and there's a lot of unproductivity today. Because celebrating doesn't really bring us together. There are still poverty, there are still unemployment. We are not going ahead as a continent. So it's better we don't celebrate it at all.
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah, the reason being that we've been under colonial rule for a long time, and without the AU, Africa will still be under colonial rule. And I think it has helped a lot. It has really helped. And I will also advise the militias, people like Boko Haram, and recently what happened in South Africa. Because we are all brothers. And it will make sense for us to attack ourselves. But as for the AU, it is 100% good for Africa. Because if you are in a family, you have to unite. Because we don't know the day the enemy will rise up.
You're still watching Joy News Prime here on Joy News and Multi TV and also on ABN TV across Europe. Still to come, regional chairman of opposition New Patriotic Party have been holding meetings to begin processes of impeaching chairman and general secretary of the party. When we return, we'll give you the details. Please stay with us. Welcome back and many thanks for staying. Now, the office of the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party says its attention has been drawn to a story on the page 19 of the May 25, 2015 edition of the Daily Graphic entitled Regional Chairman Plan to Oust Afoko Japan. That's in a question mark. The story signed by Nanado's press secretary says the import of the Daily Graphic report seeks to portray Nana Akufo-Addo as having sanctioned the Regional Executive Committee meetings despite an earlier agreement with the national chairman to hold a National Executive Committee meeting on the same day, that's Monday 25, 2015. The statement says the impression is totally wrong, flawed and mischievous. It continues that as a general rule, Nana Akufo-Addo does not like to engage in media commentary on internal NPP matters. But having regard to the importance of the issues at stake, he has had to come out with this particular release. We're still on the NPP. A political science lecturer, Dr. Barima Asare, says the opposition New Patriotic Party acted too quickly by convening regional meetings which sought to impeach the national chairman and general secretary. 3 regions, Central, Eastern and Delta, have already passed the vote of no confidence in the embattled chairman and general secretary. He was speaking on latest development within the NPP on today's big story.
I think that it is premature for the party to do that. I think they should allow the investigative agencies to really do their work so that the evidence will be there that the two have been involved in certain things completely unacceptable. And I think so soon and the party coming out that they no longer have the confidence in these two individuals, I think it's not the best for the NPP and it's not the best for the parties involved, the National Council as well as the General Secretary and the party chairman. It could be several factors that have been put together, but what climaxed everything was the death of Mr. Adams Mahama. And I think as a political party, usually you want to make sure that your structures are working, the chairperson, the General Secretary. But the bigger issue has to do with the fact that if there is back and forth between the General Secretary, the party chairman on one hand, and other executive and the flag bearer on the other hand, I don't think it is so bad for the political party. But normally we want a situation whereby, I know within the constitution of the NPP, the party chairman is supposed to be the leader of the party. But we know once the party has a flag bearer, the flag bearer assumes the position of the leader of the party. So I expect that the party chairman and the flag bearer will find some common ground, some ways and means to be able to do things together.
Away from NPP, let's talk Ebola. A total of 140 suspected Ebola cases in Ghana tested between March last year to date at the Noguchi Memorial Institute proved negative. But the Ebola threat to Ghana remains high since Ghana is located in the midst of countries that had recorded cases of the disease with fatalities. Last month, the health minister said government, through the ministry and other related agencies, had put in place a number of preventive, pre-positioning and containment strategies against the possible outbreak of the disease here in the country. Now, one of such programs is the testing of Ebola vaccines, expected to be conducted at the School of Public Health in Hohoe in the Volta region. Joy News' regional correspondent Alfred Kwame Asare has filed the following report about what the program entails.
The Ebola vaccine test is being undertaken under the School of Public Health of the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Hohoe. It involves some researchers in and outside the country, some scientists, and then some students as well. But then as we speak, sponsors of the exercise must initiate the Ebola vaccine test before it commences. So as we speak, the program has not started yet. And then it also has to be approved. But as we speak, or however, announcements have been made for volunteers to register and then be part of the exercise. Information I gathered states that some people are willing to undertake this, but then the registration too has not taken place yet. But then announcements have been made. So after the program is initiated by the sponsors, then registration and then other aspects of the exercise will commence. I spoke to one lecturer at the University of Health and Allied Sciences, the public health school in Hohoe, and then what he or she tells me is that they are trying to put up a good package for the volunteers, people that will come out and then make themselves available.
Volta Regional Minister Helen Adjuantoso is advocating compulsory leave for public officials. This comes after the death of District Chief Executive of Biakoye, Nana Louise Akata. The DCE died after a short illness, and the regional minister seems to be implying that Akata's death is somewhat related to his negligence of his health and overworking. According to Madame Adjuantoso, there is a lot of pressure in public office. Let's find out more as I have been joined by former President of National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana, NALAC, George Bafo, via telephone. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
What do you make of this call by the Volta Regional Minister?
Could you repeat the call, please?
What do you make of this call? Well, she's calling for public officials to go on their compulsory leaves.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mami. And greetings to your cherished listeners. I think that the call basically is in the right direction, because it is not for nothing that in the normal public service system, arrangements have been made for people to work for a certain number of days and then have some rest within a certain number of days. The body, cannot work, to infinity. it has to take the rest and then refresh their mind for rejuvenation. So I think that it is normal for people to take their rest, but for obvious reasons, people decide to hold on, you know, and stay on the job for moments without end, and I think that it affects their output because of some mental, you know,
some perceptions. Some perceptions about losing your job sometimes, some way, somehow, if you should go on a leave.
Well, I don't think that going on leave should necessarily result to the loss of one's job, unless perhaps the circumstances is so critical that perhaps you have to stay on the job for some time, you know, as part of your leave, and then the number of days that are spent are also added onto the normal leave. But to say that you wouldn't go on leave, you know, for no reason, is not the right thing to do. I believe that Madame Ntoso took cognizance of the fact that political leaders in this country are not allowed, or perhaps, you know, do not take their leave to have some rest. You have regional ministers, ministers of state, you know, minister, metropolitan, and district chief executive staying on the job.
So in this case, while this is, sorry for cutting you there, but while this is a call for them to take and go on their compulsory leave, how do you think she can, or the entire system can ensure that this happens?
Well, I think that as part of the service condition within the public and even the private sector, annual leave is a schedule. Every worker within the public and private sector is supposed to take an annual leave. That should create an atmosphere of rest for the person and for the mind to get refreshed.
I asked this question because I want to find out how effective asking people to go on leave compulsorily will be, because there are people who will still go on leave and still get engaged in other jobs.
Well, once you take your annual leave and you decide to do some other jobs, that will be your own cup of tea. But
so you come back and you're still not refreshed.
Well, but in the normal scheme of things, one has to take his annual leave and take the rest. But you can also not monitor to find out whether the person actually, you know, took the leave to rest or not. But like I said, normally people should be compulsorily, you know, permitted to go on leave. They should be compelled to take the annual leave.
So how can we get this to work as it has been intended to, as compulsory leave is intended to? It's supposed to make you rest. How can we get it work? And how can we even make it compulsory for, say, a minister to go on leave when he's a political leader and is afraid of his position somehow?
Well, you know, political appointees have their service conditions. And I believe that as part of the service conditions of this country, as part of the labor arrangements in this country, people are supposed to take some rest. And for that matter, political leaders will have to arrange such that some leaders will take their leave, or some political appointees will take their leave. Others would hold the fort for them. And then when they are also back, some other people could take their leave. It should be part of the conditions of work for political appointees. Because otherwise, you have fatigue setting in, and output is lowered because of pressure of work. Yeah. Sometimes it even leads to premature death and some other unforeseen circumstances. So we should look at it in the context that the minister has suggested, and ensure that people in the public sector and the private sector and even political appointees take their annual leave.
Take their annual leave.
To ensure that we get the best out of them.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's move on with some other stories. It is indeed important that you take your annual leave. Well, the Ghana School Feeding Program has received funds from the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning to defray its indebtedness to caterers under the program. Unfortunately, the monies have not gotten to the caterers yet. The National Coordinator of the School Feeding Program, Seidu Ademo, spoke earlier on the Pulse and revealed that they have increased the feeding grant of 50 pesewas to 80 pesewas, and caterers will feel the impact of the funds released from mid-June.
That we have received relief from Ministry of Finance to clear all the outstanding up to the end of the second term. will only be left with this third term, which has just started. Yeah.
Okay. So when was the fund released, and what's the mode of the disbursement?
We are strengthening our records from the various districts. You know, we have observed some bloated enrollment figures. Some other cases are complaining that their enrollment figures are below what they have said and whatnot. So we are trying to correct those situations, and I hope that by I think the middle of June we should clear everything that we owe the caterers.
Going forward, you are assuring the people of Ghana and the children who eat from these caterers that the prayers that the program should not be jeopardized anymore is going to be fulfilled. That's your promise.
That is going to be fulfilled and then to be enhanced. I think the government, the parliament approved that the feeding grant is raised from 60 pesos per child per day to 80 pesos per child per day, and that is going to be effective this third term. So that is why we need to straighten the record, because we are now going to, instead of 50, we are paying 80 pesos per child. So we need to ensure that the caterers provide the work.
Well, the people of Dabuya, a farming community in the newly created North Gonja district of the northern region, have some issues which we're going to deal with when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Etonam Say is in the studio and she's standing by with some business news before we go into Dabuya. Etonam, what's in business?
Well, it appears that Tekwe says that our current debt will not go beyond the 70% mark that other analysts are talking about.
It seems the conversation about the debts will never go away, but let's hear the details.
Right, I'm Etonam Say. Finance Minister Tekwe says government is on track in solving the country's rising debt. The country's public debt hit 76 billion as of December last year, according to the Bank of Ghana. Tekwe tells Joy Business the measures put in place are already working in favor of the country.
Well, we have short-term measures, refinancing, extending the tenor. Those will have an immediate impact. Others like on-lending, in which you are bringing in SOEs that we're not used to paying. It will take time. They have to set up, structures. They have to, look at the impact on their operations and make, So that's why in my presentation, I always make a difference between the short-term, measures that are required to address an issue and the structural ones which are more permanent. And so, again, to repeat, the once we have like refinancing, using a portion of the sovereign bond, for example, to extend the tenor, are things which you achieve immediate results. So you reduce the interest rate, you extend the tenor, and then you spread the payment over 10 years instead of 3 years. So it softens the debt service burden. But what you need are structural measures, sinking fund, infrastructure fund, on lending, making SOEs, projects pay. Those ones take time to set up. We envisage that it should be up and, picking up, within the next 1.5 to 2 years.
And the GCB Bank has defended Universal Bank in the country following concerns about the investments in treasury bills. The Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, lashed out at commercial banks for their heavy investments in T-bills and called on them to be innovative in helping rope more people into the banking sector.
Banks generally have opportunities to invest in different asset classes, and they measure risk return and the best way of generating value for their shareholders. And of course, loan growth is a function of the opportunities to actually do good lending and not come out to report the level of impairments that we are seeing in the market. So yes, I mean, one would say that maybe government treasury bills have offered a good return on investment, and quite rightly, it's not only GCB that has done that. I mean, right across the banking industry, we've seen investments gone up in government treasury bills. If interest rates change and interest rates go down, naturally that would see the reversal of that trend.
And Ghana is said to be a step ahead of other African countries in terms of agribusiness. Chief Director in charge of agriculture at the African Development Bank has charged other African countries to complement each other in order to boost agricultural production in Africa.
Ghana is a step above many other countries in the area of agribusiness. Okay, what needs to work now is to how to mobilize resources for the youths, because this is an area that we want to support. A number of graduates come out, they have nowhere to go, and they don't know there is a lot of profit in agriculture. Okay, but for them to come to agriculture and learn about this profit, we need to show them that it's profitable, it's attractive. They don't want to waste their resources and time, and they don't get anything out of it. And Ghana is demonstrating, and we need to complement each other. There are various donors seated around the table here. We need to know what each is doing so that we don't duplicate our efforts, and that the work ADB is doing complements what European Union is doing, complements what the World Bank is doing, and so on and so forth. That's the first lesson that we need to do. The second thing that we need to do is to focus on those key priority areas that are constraints, such as, for example, they talked about here financing, especially to SMEs. So how can we get resources for these people, and how do we go about it, even though it cannot be done by African Development Bank alone? It can also be done by the government by reforming and guaranteeing the commercial banks to provide the resources.
And it does appear that the power situation in the country has improved. Well, that is according to information we have picked up from you viewers. Unfortunately, on Sunday, the Sandon Asogli thermal plant at Pong near Tema was shut down, an incident which has been attributed to unavailability of gas. With the closure of Asogli, the country is said to be losing about 180 megawatts of electricity. What is the impact of this closure on power supply? Joy News spoke with the Executive Director of Kumasi Institute of Technology, and here are excerpts.
The fact that we haven't seen any worsening load shedding over the past few days, please suggest that maybe.
Well, you haven't seen in your area.
Well, I'm saying that worsening. That's the word that I use.
Okay.
Yes, if we haven't seen an aggravated load shedding, then it presupposes that maybe one other unit somewhere has been brought online. So, or unless we get in some imports from Cote d'Ivoire, but the bottom line is that if we lose 180 megawatts and we don't get it from anywhere, then definitely the load shedding is going to worsen a bit.
That's our wrap up with business. My name is Eton. I'm saying many thanks for your time.
Time now to do some sports news. And Black Meteors head coach Malik Jabir remains confident of grinding a favorable result away to Congo in the qualifiers to the CAF Under-23 Championship. The Black Meteors labored to a 1-0 first leg win over the Red Devils through a 44th minute strike by winger Enoch Eboando in Accra on Saturday. Congo, led by former Ghana coach Claude Leroy, proved a strong side, and the slender first leg outcome has raised some apprehension ahead of the return encounter next weekend. But the former Olympic medalist remains positive about Ghana's chances on May 30.
A game is a game. I hope everybody saw what went on. What is told me is that we should go and toughen up the more, go and qualify in Congo, because they are not better than us. But, well, that is the game. It's just one goal. If you look at their back, they are just some tall guys who whack players. They only come crash into players. But if we practice, and then we'll be more weighted up there when we go there, I think we can go through. look at how the goal came. After all that, it just went through. So we've got to do that more so that we'll create more scoring chances, put the ball behind them instead of, bumping into them. You see, going to fight somebody you don't know is difficult. As I'm talking to you, I know what I mean. We didn't know anything about them. I know they also didn't know. But here is our home. Maybe we should have done more homework than they. Maybe. But, well, we just came in like that and then saw it worked in the first half. We missed a few chances. I think we'll have to sharpen up that too, how to finish well and again get the balls behind their rough defenders.
Now, Stephen Appiah has confirmed the arrival of Alessandro Del Piero, Nigel de Jong and Yaya Toure for his testimonial march on June 27. The former Black Stars captain is hosting an array of world football icons as he bids his official farewell to active football, with a dinner and a testimonial march being organized by Primevale Media Ghana Limited. Appiah tells Joy Sports he is confident of a good showing on the day. The 34-year-old, so some more news here. The 34-year-old who also played for Fenerbahce officially announced his retirement from football earlier this week. This year we're expecting to play something from him, but we don't have that now. But that's it for sports tonight. Some international news now. The exhumation of what is believed to be the remains of Burkina Faso's former president, Thomas Sankara, has begun. Once exhumed, they can be formally identified. Seen as Africa's Che Guevara, the anti-imperialist revolutionary was hastily buried with 12 others in a 1987 coup. Permission for an exhumation was denied during the rule of his successor, Blaise Compaoré, who left office last October amid street protest. Mr. Compaoré has always denied involvement in the ex-leader's killing, insisting that the facts are known in court and he has nothing to hide. But the new interim government said Mr. Sankara's family would be given the means to help identify the corpse. 6 people have been put in isolation in prison in Guinea after being accused of traveling with the corpse of a relative who died of Ebola. The authorities said the body was seated upright in a taxi, dressed in a t-shirt and jeans with sunglasses, and sandwiched between 3 others. It's after 21 days they show no signs. If after 21 days they show no signs of having the virus, they will be tried for violating the health emergency law. Guinea is battling to control a flare-up in Ebola cases. Nearly 2,500 people have died in Guinea since the West Africa Ebola outbreak began more than a year ago. Now, 1 month after the devastating 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit Nepal, the United Nations is appealing for more food aid and shelter for those left homeless. A UN official said there was still a need to focus on providing relief rather than reconstruction. More than 8,000 people died in the disaster and many remain homeless. Nepal's government, which has been criticized for being slow to respond, has called for more direct aid funding. Finance Minister Dr. Ram Charan Mahat told the BBC less than 10% of the money spent on relief by his government came from overseas. That'll be all for international news. The move by the Energy Commission to eliminate uncertified electricians may not materialize without proper monitoring systems. That is a concern of some practitioners in Kumasi who believe the Commission should go beyond media campaign if it wants to ensure standard house wiring regime. They suggest formation of special security patrol teams to work with local people to flush out quacks. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin reports.
Many Ghanaians believe electrical faults account for more than half of fire-related disasters in the country. Out of 3,783 fire incidents recorded last year, 202 people died and 869 were injured. 1,620 domestic, 89 industrial, and 512 vehicular fire outbreaks were reported over the period, out of which 70% was blamed on faulty electrical wiring. Though there is considerable decline in the rate of fire incidents this year, there are concerns much more needs to be done to completely curb such occurrences. Ernest Agri is one of many concerned citizens who want the Energy Commission to set up preventive measures as he and his peers gear up to intensify the fight.
Cable metal is the right material for the work, but you take the money for the cable metal and buy different material, and that material, if you try with a certain gadgets, it can cause fire outbreak. But whilst you are taking something from the better material that you're supposed to buy, the person can use to buy the different, if I say, I can say an inferior material.
Meanwhile, the Energy Commission and some certified electricians have staged a march to create public awareness on the electrical wiring regulation, LI 2008 of 2011. It spells out requirements for eligibility for persons who can wire residential and commercial buildings. Buildings wired by uncertified persons will not be connected to the national grid. Victor Owusu is the public relations manager of the Energy Commission.
People invest a lot in buildings, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's industrial. And so you've got to get people who are good in electrical wiring. You've got to get the right materials too. Otherwise, if your property becomes engulfed in fire as a result of poor workmanship or as a result of inferior cables, it means your investment will have gone to ruins.
The people of Dabuya, a farming community in the newly created North Gonja district of the northern region, have asked government to, as a matter of urgency, construct a bridge over the Dabuya River to facilitate the transportation of their farm produce to market centers. They say failure of government to construct this bridge has also resulted in perennial needless loss of lives of traders and school children.
The Dabuya River has cut off over 25 farming communities in the district from the northern regional capital, Tamale. Communities such as Mankarigu, Bisa, Singa, Barigu and Yagbong, among others, go through a lot of inconveniences to transport their farm produce and also access health care in the capital. Over the years, dozens of farmers, traders and school children have drowned in the river in their attempt to cross to Tamale. The most recent was when 5 people, including 2 children of the former district police commander of the area, drowned. Residents are worried about this perennial issue.
You can see that we are here, Dabuya number 1, but you can't cross to Dabuya because of the river. When you get to Tale, that's Tolong district. This is Dabuya number 1. That's if you reach here, you see that Dabuya is near, but you are seeing people at Dabuya here, you are seeing everything. But because of the river, the bridge is not there. You can't go.
The absence of the bridge also affects the education of school children, especially when the river overflows its banks during the rainy season. Even as it is not in the rainy season, some teachers have tasked themselves with daily additional responsibility of moving to the riverside to ensure that school children from cut-off communities cross the river safely. Jamani Hudu is a teacher of Dabuya DA Primary School.
Each and every day I come to the riverside to make sure that my children from the other bank of Dabuya cross safely. So this is another responsibility to me. Every day I make sure that I come here to make sure that our children cross safely.
Apart from the people, exposing themselves to the danger of crossing the river. Bad road network to the district is also another issue. A 30-kilometer untarred road from the river side to the next district, Tolong, makes commercial drivers unwilling to ply the road. Yusuf Zakari is a commercial driver.
When you do maintenance today, it's likelihood that tomorrow you have to do another maintenance, which means that the small amount that you are getting, you are going to use it for maintenance. So it will be no profit for you, and their profit earners, they want to also get something for themselves.
District Chief Executive for North Gonja, Siku Kasim Yahuza, says the district finds it extremely difficult to attract professionals to the area due to the danger the river poses to the people.
We are making a passionate appeal to the government that government should consider constructing a bridge over the White Volta, and then the road from Tolong to Tare should not end at Tare.
Well, Daboya expects some quick intervention there, ending the bulletin this hour. Our top stories again. Regional chairman of opposition New Patriotic Party have held meetings to begin processes of impeaching chairman and general secretary of the party. Today is Africa Union Day, but how relevant has the continental body been? Well, we'll give you some insight on that. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty Ando. I'll appear up next. It's PM Express with Nana Ansa. Many thanks for your time. See you tomorrow.
This is Joy News Prime.